The Real Housewives of Atlanta returns for season 17 this April, and there is 2 new full-time cast members. Everybody is returning from the Sweet 16 season except for Brit Eady and Kenya Moore, but of course nobody is surprised about that. So let's talk a little bit more about the whole Brit Eady of it all. Brit Eady's lawsuit against Bravo filed in New York State Supreme Court has been withdrawn and refiled in the Southern District of New York as federal courts. Her original lawsuit, a $20 million civil action filed in New York that accuses the network and its production partners of defamation, sexual harassment, hostile work environment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, has been withdrawn by her in November. The case stems from an incident on The Real Housewives of Atlanta involving explicit images allegedly shown on camera and used to humiliate her. Eady alleges that during filming of RHOA season 16, castmate Kenya Moore displayed posters containing explicit sexual images that Moore claimed was Brit Eady. Eady argues that the images were not her, making the act defamatory. The display constituted a gender-based attack and sexual harassment. Her original lawsuit was filed on June 5th, which was the taping of the reunion in New York State Supreme Court, which is New York's lower court. Despite it being called New York State Supreme Court, that's actually the lower court. What in other states would be their Supreme Court, in New York is actually the appellate court, but I digress. The case: Eady versus Truly Original LLC, number 125 CV 09683. It was filed on November 20th, 2025. The defendants are Bravo Media LLC and Truly Original LLC. The case type, this is important, Civil Rights Employment 442. Eady's counsel, Bloch and White LLP, very heavy hitters. The majority of the lawyers in that firm are from Harvard, Yale, and other Ivy League schools. Eady is now pursuing employment-related civil rights claims under federal law. Code 44.2 refers to Title VII employment discrimination cases. These typically involve claims such as sex discrimination, sexual harassment, hostile work environment, retaliation, unequal treatment in employment. Eady's allegations are that Bravo and its production partners allowed or facilitated display of explicit images she says were falsely attributed to her, gender-based humiliation, a hostile work environment, retaliatory or discriminatory treatment. What happens next procedurally? In the Southern District of New York, they move like molasses. Settlement talks. This one is important. Trial if not resolved earlier. Given the high-profile nature of Bravo litigation, many similar cases settled before trial. Bravo and NBC Universal have followed a very recognizable sequence. Bravo almost always begins by denying the allegations or framing them as miscategorizations. Bravo has been hit with multiple lawsuits alleging mistreatment and hostile work environments. Their legal teams routinely try to get cases thrown out early. Leah McSweeney from the original RHONY. In her case, Bravo filed a motion to dismiss all counts. A federal judge, this part is important and we're going to circle back to it. A federal judge denied that motion, allowing her hostile workplace claims to proceed. She struck down the majority of her claims, but allowed 3 of her claims to go forward. This is a major shift because Bravo is used to winning early procedural battles. Historically, many disputes never reach trial. They rely on NDAs, talent contracts, and the reality TV is messy narrative to minimize reputational damage. Recent lawsuits show the old strategy is cracking, though. Leah McSweeney, which we said we were going to circle back to, she filed a 109-page lawsuit alleging discrimination, hostile work environment, and retaliation. Caroline Mansell filed a lawsuit claiming sexual harassment. This cluster suggests that Bravo's internal risk controls are no longer containing the fallout. What does this mean for Brit Eady's case? Given Bravo's history, several things are likely. They will fight early with motions to dismiss and will try to keep discovery limited, especially around production practices. They may seek settlement if the case survives early motions. Eady's case being filed in federal courts, Southern District of New York, and classified as Civil Rights Employment 44.2 puts it in the same legal category as McSweeney's, and that case already survived dismissal. That precedent increases the pressure on Bravo. The bigger trend, reality TV is facing a labor reckoning. Not a reality Bethany Frankel reckoning, a labor reckoning. Legal scholars argue that Bravo's model, encouraging conflict, alcohol use, and emotional motility, is now colliding with modern work laws. As of February 2026, McSweeney's case is moving toward trial. Bravo's lawyers have pushed for private hearings, which McSweeney's team argues is an attempt to hide damaging information. This is classic Bravo strategy. Keep discovery out of public view, limit what becomes part of the record, and reduce reputational fallout. It keeps damaging production practices out of public view, basically. How does this all connect to Brit Eady's case? The fact that McSweeney's case survived dismissal makes it harder for Bravo to argue that reality TV cast members aren't protected employees. Eady's case is coming at a moment when Bravo's legal armor is already cracking. Judge overseeing both cases is Judge Jennifer RHOA. She sits on the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, and she was appointed by President Biden in 2022. Her background gives you a very clear sense of the kind of judge she is. She was the former general counsel of the Girl Scouts of the USA from 2013 to 2022 before she took her bench appointment. She worked on constitutional and immigration rights cases. She is not hostile to civil rights claims. She, again, represented Girl Scouts, immigration advocacy. This background, sympathetic to civil rights issue. Judge RHOA's rulings in McSweeney's lawsuit tell you a lot about how she may approach Brit Eady's case. She dismissed McSweeney's claims that were too broad, speculative, or not tied to specific legal standards. The three claims that she allowed to move forward to trial: disability discrimination, hostile work environments, and retaliation. These are the three claims that met the federal pleading standard and are now moving toward trial. And just a little background about Leah McSweeney, if you guys are not familiar with how she made her money. She originally made her money by suing the NYPD, and she settled for about $700,000. So she is used to litigation. The judge's decision to allow those three claims signals that she's not buying Bravo's argument that reality TV cast members aren't protected employees, a major shift in the legal landscape. What this means for Brit Eady's case. Because Judge RHOA is now overseeing Brit Eady's federal lawsuit, several implications follow. Eady's lawyers will need to tie every allegations to a specific Title VII theory: sex discrimination, harassment, retaliation. Judge RHOA will most likely dismiss any vague or narrative-only complaints. If Eady's allegations of sexual harassment, hostile work environment, or retaliation are well pleaded, they are likely to survive Bravo's inedible motion to dismiss, just like McSweeney's did. Her Girl Scouts background and public interest work suggests she is attuned to gender-based discrimination and harassment dynamics directly relevant to both McSweeney and Eady. Bottom line, Judge Jennifer RHOA is the same judge on both McSweeney's and Eady's cases. A judge who already signaled that Bravo can't hide behind reality TV is in a workplace, a serious threat to Bravo's traditional legal strategy. The next court date is scheduled for March 6, 2026, which is this upcoming Friday. My opinion of Brit Eady's problem with her lawsuit is that the network did react right away. They did fire Kenya Moore right away. So for her to say that is workplace retaliation and all this other stuff, she was never fired. She wasn't offered a contract, but your contract is not guaranteed. And as a matter of fact, she breached her workplace contract by not showing up to the reunion. Now, as far as all the others, hostile environment, I mean, she wasn't some wallflower herself. She was very aggressive, but there's also, moments where she herself was acting a fool. An example right off the top of my head, when her and her husband was going to look at cars that they were definitely not going to buy, but she needed a scene to film, she legit kicked her legs up over her head. Her husband was standing there next to the car salesman, and her husband was like, "Girl, put your legs down." That was you wanting to be the it girl on camera. Every young housewives that goes on to Bravo, they all try to be the sex symbol. We see this with Whitney Rose. She is forever making the most sexual innuendos everywhere because she wants the attention. Now, her insurance license was a little shaky. I already did a whole entire video on that. In Discovery, she will have to show if she actually have a license or not. This will be interesting to see how these lawsuits progress, and the lawyers generally will push for a settlement. It just depends on what number you're willing to settle for. And if the number is outrageous, the network might feel like, you know what, we'll take our chances at trial. And the thing with trial is that it's very hard to convince 12 people to all agree with you. She announced on New Year's Eve on December 31st, 2025, that her and her husband, Michael Cunningham, were separated, filing for a divorce, whatever. They've been married for 5 years. Anyway, so she's got that going on. Let me know what you guys think of all of this.